The 911 call came in at 3:47 a.m. on February 14, 2025. Valentine's Day, and the voice on the other end wasn't panicked or crying. It was calm. Too calm. "I need to report that my son is missing," the woman said, her tone flat as winter pavement. By sunrise, investigators would realize they weren't searching for a missing child. They were standing at the edge of something far darker, a crime so calculated, so cold, that it would send shockwaves through every parent in America and launch one of the most intensive international manhunts in recent FBI history. Her name was Cindy Rodriguez Singh, a 34-year-old mother from suburban Phoenix, Arizona. To neighbors, she was quiet, polite, maybe a little distant. To her son's teachers, she seemed overwhelmed but devoted. To the FBI, she would become something else entirely. Fugitive number 523 on the 10 most wanted list. A woman who didn't just commit murder, she orchestrated an escape so methodical, so premeditated, that investigators believe she'd been planning it for months before her son's body was ever found. But let's go back to that morning. Back to the moment when everything unraveled. When Phoenix police arrived at the Rodriguez Singh residence, a modest two-bedroom rental in a quiet cul-de-sac, Cindy met them at the door. She was dressed, hair brushed, makeup applied. Not the appearance of a mother whose 6-year-old son had vanished in the night. Officer Marcus Chen would later testify that her eyes were eerily steady, that she didn't fidget, didn't pace, didn't do any of the things a terrified parent does when their child is missing. "When did you last see him?" Chen asked. "Around midnight," Cindy replied. "I put him to bed. When I checked on him this morning, he was gone." The window in the boy's bedroom was open. A screen had been removed, placed carefully against the exterior wall. Cindy explained that her son's 6-year-old Mateo Singh had been having nightmares lately. That he'd been acting out. That maybe, just maybe, he'd climbed out and wandered off. But here's where the story starts to crack. Mateo's shoes were still by the door. His jacket still hung on its hook. It was February in Arizona, cold enough at night that a child in pajamas wouldn't last long outside. And yet Cindy's explanation never wavered. She repeated the same details, the same timeline, with mechanical precision. No tears, no trembling voice, just facts delivered like a rehearsed script. Would you have believed her story? The search began immediately. Volunteers combed the neighborhood. Helicopters circled overhead with thermal imaging. Amber alerts lit up phones across the state. For 18 hours, the community held its breath, hoping Mateo would be found safe, cold, maybe, scared definitely, but alive. Then the cadaver dogs arrived. They found him in the crawlspace beneath the house, wrapped in a blue tarp, duct tape around his small wrists. His body had been there for at least 3 days, meaning Cindy's 911 call, her story about the open window, her calm demeanor, all of it was theater. A performance designed to buy time. The medical examiner's report would later reveal that Mateo died from asphyxiation, manual strangulation. The kind that requires sustained pressure, sustained intent. This wasn't a moment of rage. This wasn't an accident that spiraled out of control. Someone had held that child down and squeezed until his life drained away. And the only person with access to him, the only person in that house, was his mother. By the time investigators returned to the residence with an arrest warrant, Cindy Rodriguez Singh was gone. Here's what they found in her bedroom: an empty suitcase pulled from the closet, hangers scattered on the floor. Her passport missing, her laptop wiped clean, hard drive removed. In the kitchen trash, buried beneath coffee grounds and takeout containers, they discovered a printed itinerary. A one-way ticket to Mexico City, departing from a small regional airport 2 hours outside Phoenix. Departure time: 6:15 a.m., February 15th, less than 3 hours after she'd made that 911 call. She'd planned this, every step. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit would later construct a psychological profile that painted a chilling picture. Cindy wasn't fleeing in panic. She was executing a strategy. The open window wasn't a mistake, it was misdirection. The 911 call wasn't a mother's desperate plea, it was an alibi. A way to establish herself as a victim before anyone suspected she was the perpetrator. And the timing? Calculated to give her maximum distance before Mateo's body was discovered. But what pushes a mother to cross this line? To understand Cindy Rodriguez Singh, you have to go back. Back before the murder, before the flight, before the FBI manhunt. Back to a woman who, by all accounts, was drowning. Cindy grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the youngest of 4 children in a working-class family. Her childhood was unremarkable, decent grades, a few close friends, no major red flags. She married young, at 22, to Rajesh Singh, an IT consultant she'd met through mutual friends. Mateo was born 2 years later, and for a while, things seemed stable. But those who knew Cindy during this period describe a woman who was always performing normalcy. Her sister, Maria Rodriguez, would later tell investigators that Cindy never seemed comfortable being a mother, that she went through the motions, feeding, bathing, school drop-offs, but there was an emotional distance, a coldness that Maria couldn't quite articulate. It was like she was playing a role, Maria said in a recorded interview. Like she was doing what she thought mothers were supposed to do, but her heart wasn't in it. The marriage deteriorated quickly. Rajesh filed for divorce when Mateo was 4, citing Cindy's emotional unavailability and concerning behavior around their son. He sought full custody. The court battle was brutal, stretching over 18 months, draining both parties financially and emotionally. In the end, they settled on joint custody, with Mateo spending weekdays with Cindy and weekends with Rajesh. Rajesh would later tell police that he'd been documenting everything, taking photos of bruises on Mateo's arms, recording the boy's statements about being locked in the closet when he misbehaved. He was building a case to file for emergency custody. He was planning to act in March 2025. He never got the chance. Could this happen in your neighborhood? That's the question that haunted Phoenix in the weeks after Mateo's body was discovered. Because Cindy Rodriguez Singh wasn't a monster in the traditional sense. She didn't have a criminal record. She wasn't flagged by social services. She held down a job as a medical billing specialist, paid her rent on time, smiled at neighbors when she checked the mail. She was invisible. And that invisibility was her greatest weapon. Dr. Helen Cartwright, a forensic psychologist who consulted on the case, explained it this way: we're conditioned to look for obvious signs of danger, aggression, instability, chaos. But some of the most dangerous individuals are those who've mastered the art of appearing normal. They understand social cues. They know what to say, how to act, when to smile. Underneath, though, there's a profound emotional void. An inability to form genuine attachments. And when that void is threatened, when they feel trapped or exposed, they're capable of extreme violence. In Cindy's case, the threat was Rajesh's custody battle. She was losing control. Losing the one thing that gave her life structure and purpose, even if that purpose was hollow. And rather than surrender Mateo to his father, rather than face the humiliation of being deemed an unfit mother, she made a choice. She eliminated the problem. The manhunt began on February 16, 2025, when the FBI officially named Cindy Rodriguez Singh a fugitive. Her photo, a driver's license image showing a woman with dark hair, brown eyes, and an unremarkable smile, was plastered across news outlets nationwide. Tips poured in. Sightings in Texas, California, Nevada, all dead ends. But the FBI had something Cindy didn't anticipate: her digital footprint. In the months before Mateo's death, Cindy had been researching. Investigators recovered fragments of her search history from cloud backups she'd failed to delete. The queries were chilling in their specificity. How long before a missing child case becomes a homicide investigation? Countries without extradition treaty with U.S. How to disappear without a trace. Asphyxiation time to unconsciousness. She'd also been active on expat forums, asking questions about living abroad, opening foreign bank accounts, obtaining residency in Central and South America. She was methodical, patient. She knew exactly what she was doing, and for a while it worked. Cindy's trail went cold in Mexico City. Surveillance footage from the airport showed her clearing customs on February 15th, but after that nothing. No credit card transactions. No phone activity. No border crossings. It was as if she'd evaporated. The FBI believed she'd connected with someone, a contact, maybe a romantic partner, someone who could provide shelter and resources. They suspected she'd altered her appearance, possibly dyed her hair, changed her style of dress. They knew she spoke fluent Spanish, which gave her an advantage in blending into local communities. For 3 months, the case stalled. Mateo's father, Rajesh, appeared on national television, pleading for information. "She took my son from me," he said, his voice breaking. "And now she's out there, living her life, while I have to bury my child. Please, if anyone knows where she is, come forward." The public was captivated. True crime podcasts dissected every detail. Amateur sleuths on Reddit and TikTok analyzed her psychology, her motives, her possible locations. Some painted her as a victim of postpartum psychosis, a woman who'd snapped under pressure. Others saw her for what she was, a calculated killer who'd murdered her own child to avoid losing a custody battle. What do you think? Was this a breakdown, or was this murder in its purest, coldest form? The break came in May 2025 from an unexpected source, a yoga instructor in Medellin, Colombia. Her name was Sofia Herrera, and she'd been following the case online. One of her regular students, a quiet American woman who went by the name Carmen, had recently joined her classes. Carmen was polite, kept to herself, paid in cash. But something about her felt off. The way she avoided eye contact. The way she flinched when sirens passed outside. The way she always sat near the exit, as if ready to bolt at any moment. Sofia couldn't shake the feeling. So she did what any curious person would do in 2025. She took a photo. She posted it to a true crime Facebook group with the caption, "Does this woman look familiar to anyone?" Within hours, the post had been shared thousands of times. Tips flooded into the FBI. Agents cross-referenced the photo with facial recognition software. The match was 94% certain. Carmen was Cindy. The arrest happened at dawn on May 22, 2025, Colombian National Police, working in coordination with the FBI, surrounded a small apartment in the El Poblado neighborhood of Medellin. Cindy, still going by Carmen, was inside, alone. She didn't resist, didn't run. When officers knocked on the door, she opened it calmly, as if she'd been expecting them. She was dressed in yoga pants and a loose t-shirt, her hair now blonde, cut short. She looked different, but her eyes, those same eerily steady eyes Officer Chun had described, were unmistakable. "Cindy Rodriguez Singh?" an agent asked. She nodded. "I knew you'd find me eventually. No emotion. No tears. Just resignation." During the extradition process, Cindy gave a single interview to a Colombian journalist. The footage is unsettling. She sits across from the reporter, hands folded in her lap, speaking in a monotone voice that never wavers. "I didn't want to hurt him," she says, "but I couldn't let Raish take him. Mateo was mine. He was the only thing I had that was truly mine." The journalist presses. "But you killed him. You strangled your own son." Cindy's expression doesn't change. "I gave him peace. He was always so anxious, so scared. Now he doesn't have to be afraid anymore." It's a statement that chills to the bone. Not because it's monstrous, though it is, but because Cindy genuinely seems to believe it. In her mind, she didn't commit murder. She committed an act of mercy. She freed Mateo from a world she saw as hostile and threatening. And in doing so, she freed herself. Dr. Cartwright, the forensic psychologist, calls this malignant altruism, a distorted belief system where the perpetrator convinces themselves that their violent act is actually a kindness. It's a defense mechanism, a way to avoid confronting the enormity of what they've done. But here's the truly disturbing part. Cindy shows no remorse. Not for Mateo, not for Raish, not for the community she terrorized. She's detached, clinical, as if discussing someone else's crime. Would you have seen the warning signs? Could anyone have stopped this before it was too late? Cindy Rodriguez Singh was extradited to the United States in June 2025. She was charged with first-degree murder, child abuse, and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Her trial began in September, and the courtroom was packed every single day. Reporters, victims' advocates, true crime enthusiasts. Everyone wanted to see the woman who'd become a symbol of maternal evil. The prosecution's case was airtight. They presented the search history, the timeline, the forensic evidence. They called Raish to the stand, and he wept as he described the last time he'd seen his son alive, a Sunday afternoon, Mateo laughing as they played soccer in the park. "He was so happy," Raish said. He had his whole life ahead of him. The defense tried to argue diminished capacity, claiming Cindy had suffered a psychotic break. But the evidence of premeditation was overwhelming. The wiped hard drive, the plane ticket, the months of research. This wasn't a woman who'd lost her mind. This was a woman who'd made a choice. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge addressed Cindy directly. "You have shown no remorse, no empathy, no recognition of the profound evil you've committed. You took a beautiful, innocent child and extinguished his light because you couldn't bear to lose control. And then you fled, leaving his father to grieve alone while you lived in hiding, unburdened by guilt." Cindy stared straight ahead, her face blank. I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Still, nothing. No tears, no reaction. Just that same eerie calm. As she was led out of the courtroom in shackles, a reporter shouted a question. Cindy, do you have anything to say to Mateo's father? She paused, turned, and for the first time, something flickered across her face, not remorse, but something else. Something colder. I'm sorry he couldn't understand, she said. I did what I had to do. And then she was gone, swallowed by the prison system, where she spent the rest of her life. But the story doesn't end there. In the months following her conviction, investigators uncovered something that had been overlooked in the initial investigation. In Cindy's apartment in Medellin, hidden in a locked drawer, they found a journal. Page after page of meticulous notes, written in her neat, controlled handwriting. The entries began months before Mateo's death. They detailed her plans not just for the murder but for her escape, her new identity, her life abroad. But they also revealed something more disturbing. Cindy had been fantasizing about killing Mateo for over a year. She'd written about it in clinical, detached language, as if she were planning a vacation rather than a murder. February 10th, researched asphyxiation methods. Strangulation seems most efficient. Minimal mess. Quiet. February 12th, purchased tarp and duct tape, stored in garage. Rayesh won't notice. February 13th, tomorrow night, after he falls asleep. It will be quick. The journal entries stop on February 14th, the day she made the 911 call. But there's one final note, written in the margin of the last page. I am free now. Cindy Rodriguez Singh is currently incarcerated at the Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville, where she's housed in a maximum security unit. She's been described by prison staff as a model inmate, quiet, compliant, never causing trouble. She spends her days reading, writing letters that are never sent, and attending mandatory therapy sessions where she remains emotionally detached. Rayesh Singh has since relocated to another state, seeking privacy and distance from the media circus. He started a foundation in Mateo's name, focused on supporting fathers in custody battles and raising awareness about parental alienation and child abuse. But the question that haunts everyone who's followed this case remains: how does a mother become a monster? Dr. Cartwright offers this insight. We want to believe that maternal love is instinctive, that it's hardwired into every woman who gives birth, but the truth is more complicated. Some people, regardless of gender, lack the capacity for genuine emotional connection. They can mimic it, perform it, but they don't feel it. And when that emptiness collides with external pressure, with the threat of exposure or loss of control, the results can be catastrophic. Cindy Rodriguez Singh didn't kill her son in a moment of rage or desperation. She killed him because, in her mind, he was an object, a possession she refused to relinquish. And when she couldn't keep him, she destroyed him. It's a level of coldness that defies comprehension. A darkness so profound that it challenges everything we think we know about motherhood, about love, about the bonds that are supposed to be unbreakable. So, where does that leave us? Mateo Singh was 6 years old when he died. He loved dinosaurs and superheroes. He was learning to read. He had his father's smile and his mother's eyes. He should be in school right now, playing with friends, dreaming about what he wants to be when he grows up. Instead, he's a name on a headstone, a face in a photograph. A victim of the one person who was supposed to protect him above all else. And his mother, the woman who brought him into this world and then took him out of it, sits in a prison cell, unburdened by guilt, untouched by remorse, convinced that she did the right thing. If that doesn't keep you awake at night, nothing will. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. That evil doesn't always announce itself with fangs and claws. That sometimes it wears a familiar face, speaks in a calm voice, and hides behind a mask of normalcy. That the most dangerous predators aren't strangers lurking in shadows. They're the people we trust, the people we live with, the people we'd never suspect. Could this happen in your neighborhood? The answer, as much as we'd like to deny it, is yes. Because Cindy Rodriguez Singh wasn't an anomaly. She was a warning. A reminder that darkness can exist anywhere, in anyone, waiting for the right circumstances to emerge. And the scariest part? She's not alone. There are others out there right now, wearing the same mask, playing the same role, hiding the same void. We just haven't found them yet. If you want to keep exploring the darkest corners of the human mind, subscribe if you can handle what comes next. Because the stories don't get easier. The questions don't get simpler. And the truth, the real, unfiltered truth about what people are capable of, is far more terrifying than any fiction. Mateo Singh deserved better. He deserved a mother who loved him, a life full of possibility, a future that stretched out before him like an open road. Instead, he got Cindy Rodriguez Singh. And that, more than anything else, is the true horror of this case.